All right. Well, welcome everyone to our November Successful Women in Business presentation. My name is Sarah Pearson. I am with the Boca Chamber, and so I'd like to recognize the sponsors of our Successful Women in Business program. These are partners of ours that have been around for many, many years. They're businesses that support professional women, that support the success of women, and I want to recognize each of them individually. Our Ruby sponsors is Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. Also Ruby sponsors Trust Bridge, which is Hospice by the Sea, Hospice of Palm Beach County. I know they had a really cool ribbon cutting yesterday, so there's some nice expansion going on there. And of course, our partners at West Boca Medical Center, who always have great speakers, and you know, George sits on our board, and we always hear some amazing things coming out of West Boca. So thank you to those Ruby sponsors. Our Sapphire sponsors, Bell Rock Capital, Miss Jackie Reeves was just on CNBC, I believe, recently, and I saw a great interview with her. Also Sapphire sponsors Center State Bank, Florida Blue, which Penny Schaefer actually moderated our speaker's presentation yesterday, the BDB's presentation on the voices of healthcare, and that was an amazing presentation. I learned a lot, actually. I encourage you all to, if that is recorded, and Kelly can let us know in a little bit, to rewatch that. Also, our Sapphire sponsors, Northwestern Mutual and Toshiba. So if we could virtually give them a round of applause for being our sponsors of our SWIB program, I would greatly appreciate that. So now it's my honor to introduce our speaker. So our speaker is one of my favorite people in the entire world. And I know I said that 10 years ago. It's been 10 years since I've been in this organization at the Chamber in Florida. And one of the first speakers I ever saw and the first people I ever met in Florida was Kelly Smallridge. And she spoke at a SWIB. And I just remember thinking, and I know I might have even said this maybe 8 years ago, but when I was a kid, I looked up to Heather Locklear from Melrose Place, because she was this powerful, successful, beautiful woman that I think she owned like an advertising agency, and she would walk into a room, and I just wanted to be Heather Locklear. I wanted to be whatever her character name was in Melrose Place. And then in comes, you know, 10 years ago, Kelly Smallridge speaking at a SWIB lunch and talking about what she does for our community, what she does for economic development. This beautiful person comes in with confidence and knowledge, and I realized then I want to be Kelly Smallridge. And I know that there's a lot of people on this call that probably feel the same way. So every time I hear Kelly speak, I'm very impressed. I learned something. It's just truly an amazing thing to be able to have Kelly in our community, and to be able to hear all the work that she's done, not just professionally, but personally. And also I do know that she is going to maybe give us a little insight into her personally as well during the presentation today. So again, make sure you get your Q&A, your questions ready, and I am going to read her bio, and then we're just going to go right into the program. So Kelly Smallridge is President and CEO of Palm Beach County's Public-Private Economic Development Agency, the Business Development Board of Palm Beach County, which we call the BDB. She's worked there for 32 years. She serves as the longest tenured economic development president in the state of Florida, and has a solid track record in facilitating some of the largest job creation projects in Palm Beach County. In 2013, Governor Rick Scott awarded Kelly with the Governor's Ambassador Medal, recognizing her hard work in creating jobs in Palm Beach County. I can tell you a lot of the headquarters you see in Boca are because of Kelly and the work that her team has done. We in Boca absolutely benefit from that work. Kelly oversees all of the operations of the BDB, which is one of only 2 accredited economic development boards in the state of Florida. In 2004, she became the first female president of a South Florida Economic Development Board, after serving in many different capacities within the organization, including the lead role for the recruitment, retention, and expansion from 1988 to 2004. In addition, she serves as chair of the Florida Economic Development Council and as director of the following boards: Enterprise Florida, South Florida Fair, the Homeless Coalition, and the Education Foundation. In 2013 and 2019, she was featured on Fox News. I love seeing those clips, CNBC, and the New York Post, touting the assets of Palm Beach County. Under her leadership, the BDB has received numerous state and national awards for its work in recruiting and expanding companies to Palm Beach County, and is credited with facilitating two of the world's largest bioscience organizations in the state. You might know these names: Scripps Research Institute from San Diego and Max Planck Society from Germany. Her aggressive style in facilitating relocations and expansions has led to big announcements of jobs in this county from companies like United Technologies, small company like Amazon, ADT, Pratt Whitney, FedEx, Korsky Helicopters, Aldi, TBC Corporation, to name a few. She's also credited with creating several new programs for Palm Beach County. The first expedited permitting ordinance, which was adopted in 15 cities in Palm Beach County, a countywide shovel-ready program to identify sites ready for construction within 12 months, as well as an education initiative which provides a one-stop resource for CEOs to find public, private, charter, and faith-based schools when deciding to relocate. Also, the Behind the Gates initiative, which is not on this bio, but that was also a pretty impressive initiative where they were able to find who lived behind the gates of some of our communities, who maybe had a second home in those areas, and could talk those people into relocating their headquarters into Palm Beach County. Worked very successfully. Kelly graduated from the University of Florida. She has 3 sons. She resides in Wellington. She is a wonderful professional, mom, everything under the sun, and it is my pleasure as the president of the Kelly Smallridge fan club to introduce Kelly today. So there you go. Thank you, Kelly.
Sarah, thank you. You have certainly created a resume and bio and an intro for me that I hope I pan out to be everything that you say I am. I will tell you that the love, the respect for you and Chastity and your leader, Troy, is absolutely mutual. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to so many successful women that are members of your chamber today. And as in discussions with Chastity, we thought that since I just presented not too long ago, that perhaps we can talk about the Business Development Board, economic development, and also how I've been balancing the raising of 3 boys, because I think that we as women have many different roles that we play, and it certainly has led to a lot of strength and courage in my life, and certainly led to the path that you so eloquently just noted for the audience. So again, thank you so much. Chastity, if you don't mind, if we could just forward a couple of slides and I'll get right into it. And I wish I could be doing this in person for all of you, but this is the new world, and look forward to meeting all of you. And hopefully this won't last much longer. So if you're not familiar with the Business Development Board, very quickly, again, I want to give you a snapshot of the jobs in the economy, and then I'm going to talk about some personal stuff in my life as a mom who works. The Business Development Board was formed in 1982. Could you imagine that I started shortly after the organization was created? It has a staff of about 15, and it is a 40-member board of directors. 11 of my 15 staff members are women. And I truly believe therein lies why we are recognized as one of the most successful economic development boards out of all 67 in the state of Florida. A group of people who have an average stay in this organization of about 15 years. And my right-hand person and I have worked together for 31 years. So what makes us so different? First of all, I will tell you that you belong to one of the greatest chambers in all of Palm Beach County. But what we do that the chamber doesn't do is serve on the front lines every day for the companies that are coming in from outside of the state, trying to determine whether or not they want to come here to Palm Beach County, or if they want to go to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Nashville, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, different parts of Tennessee. It is our role to win that company for Palm Beach County. And we do that in partnership with the chamber and with our county commission, with our university leaders. So a lot of the success that Sarah noted in my bio is really because we're supported by so many great people who have strong relationships with this organization. We do have a contract with the County Commission, so 40% of our funding does come from the county, and that's been in place for well over 30 years. Another distinguishing factor is we work very closely with Enterprise Florida, so we serve as the only agency in Palm Beach County to recruit, retain, and expand through a formal memorandum of understanding. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have very strong partnerships. We are the only economic development board in the county that has this agreement. The cities, the universities, Enterprise Florida, our chambers, our county commissioners are all a big part of what we do. So when the CEO came in this morning at 10 o'clock prior to this presentation, I had an A team there looking to sell this client on Palm Beach County with services such as real estate and other things that they need to know in order to determine if this is the best location. Next slide, please. So when that CEO came in today, they happened to come from New York, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. What is it that this organization does? What are they looking for? And how is it that we promote the assets of Palm Beach County? You have to remember that we live in a very attractive location. No state tax on personal income, access to 6.5 million people that live in the Tri-County area, South Florida area. 53% of our population is bilingual. You make $1 million in New York and $1 million in Palm Beach County. You pay $127,000 in state taxes in New York that you don't ever pay in Palm Beach County. So as I gave my pitch this morning to the manufacturing operation, they were interested in 50,000 square feet of light industrial space, wanted to know where their employees would live, where are the local vendors and suppliers that would provide the plastic for the widgets they want to manufacture, how can they get in their building very quickly with expedited permitting, which is noted in the bio we created an ordinance, what types of grants and incentives are available to tip the scale in the favor of winning them for Palm Beach County over another location. What is the quality of education here? How will the universities provide them with a workforce? Where will those children go to school, either public or private? What are the demographics of this area? And what type of workforce assistance? Because education and workforce is the currency of economic development. Next slide. So we have a cluster-based strategy, and you can see how important it is for this organization to continue to play the role with our partners of transforming Palm Beach County's economy from one that was built on tourism, real estate, agriculture, and construction to now one that's built on aviation, aerospace, and engineering, corporate headquarters, information and technology, distribution and logistics, life sciences and healthcare, manufacturing, and then last, financial services. What this slide really means and illustrates is that our outreach effort to recruit, retain, and expand, and when I say retain and expand, we do an equal amount of work with companies in our backyard, is really geared towards these driving industries that you see on the screen. Palm Beach County has assets in place, everything from workforce and education to our transportation systems to our vendor and supplier base that help foster and facilitate the growth of the companies and industries that you see on your screen. So what does this really mean for you, whether you're an accountant, an attorney, a real estate broker? Your sales strategy and the way that you structure your business when looking for opportunities of growth should mirror or should be after the key high quality jobs that you see here on the screen. And all of this is available on our website. Next slide, please. Here is an overview of the types of companies that we've brought in the last year. This organization measures itself, just like you. You may measure your success in terms of sales. We measure ourselves with some key performance indicators. Number one, how many high quality jobs are we creating? And what I mean by that is Palm Beach County has the highest average salary of all 67 counties in the state of Florida, which is a key sign of economic success. The average salary in Palm Beach County is $54,000. That is, again, the highest. Most companies, or most counties, I should say, have average salaries closer to 50 or even 30. And so out of all 67 counties, we rank at the top. Number two, the number of jobs that we're creating. Number three, the amount of square footage that we are taking, that these companies are taking in net new square feet, whether they build a brand new facility or whether they lease a facility. It is important that we fill up the space that's being built in Palm Beach County. All of this is new growth for your companies. Next slide. Some big successes that this organization has seen, and this is sort of just to put some examples behind the type of work that we do. If you go to Donald Ross and I-95, this organization, this company, came to us when it was a glimmer in their eye in terms of their desire to create a Center for Intelligent Buildings. The executives of what was then United Technologies Corporation came to the Business Development Board, said they wanted about 30 to 40 acres on I-95 in an area where they could attract a workforce. We're in an area where they could build about 300,000 to 400,000 square feet of space, bring in some engineers, and today, fast forward 3 years later, we now have a 300,000 square foot freestanding building, which is now owned by Carrier, given the spinoff, and it is the worldwide showcase for the technologies that reside under Carrier, whether it's escalator, elevator, air conditioning, fire and security, or any other type of building intelligence system. We are very fortunate in Palm Beach County, as you can see on the upper right, to have this very highly technical building located as a showcase corporate headquarters in Palm Beach County. And this is exactly the type of work that the Business Development Board does. Next slide. Another win for this organization, and very quiet. Most of you probably don't know that Amazon has about 3 existing facilities right now in Palm Beach County. So the first one we did very quietly. 1 million square feet is under construction. The concrete was poured about 4 weeks ago, located in the Palm Beach Park of Commerce, 300 new jobs. And then a second facility is located right there in Boca Raton, 75,000 square feet, 150 jobs. The third facility is located at the corner of Belvedere and Jog. It is a 96,000 square foot facility. And the fourth and fifth facilities are confidentially being negotiated right now. But as you all know, as we shift from the big box, big mall in the ways that all of us do our shopping, and as long as Palm Beach County is in the South Florida region with a growing population, I-95, the turnpike, the ability to move goods in and out by rail, by truck, by sea, and by air, we're always going to have or be attractive to this logistics and distribution industry, which is growing in this county. Now there are 15 mega distribution and logistics centers in our county. Next. Another big success, and I call this the Wall Street South movement in Palm Beach County. And I have to tell you that there's a little bit of a selfish motive here when we created this Wall Street South motive or an initiative. As you will see in my next couple of slides, I am a mother of 3 boys. And about 15 years ago, raising these boys at very influential or at very young ages, I realized that jumping on the plane and selling Palm Beach County out of my briefcase in the boardroom of New York, Chicago, and Boston was very difficult. And yet, if you studied companies that actually made the move to Palm Beach County, a lot of corporate headquarters in Boca Raton, one of the things that we realized when companies were making the decision to move here is that the vast majority of the CEOs and the executives already had a second home here in Palm Beach County. So we created what's called the Behind the Gates initiative as a marketing strategy for economic development, which has landed us on so many different national media outlets for this reason. We went along 42 miles of ocean in Palm Beach County, and as economic developers, we studied who was buying a home that had a value of about $2 to $4 million and above, backtracked it to the company that they were leading, figured out whether or not that company had any physical location in Palm Beach County. And then all of a sudden I went from an economic developer to a professional stalker, where I am still to this day driving the streets, if I can get behind the gates, and that's why it's called Behind the Gates, into the neighborhoods of where these wealthy CEOs are flocking to, because I think it's a more lucrative economic development strategy than blindly casting ads in magazines, on buses, and on billboards in the Northeast to get Palm Beach County in front of them. This is panned out, and if you see we call it the famous brown box, over 70 financial service firms have moved their operation or an arm of their operation to Palm Beach County in pockets of Boca Raton, downtown West Palm Beach, and Palm Beach Gardens to take advantage of our state taxes, to be in a less dense environment, to get their kids into schools. One of the most lucrative, popular economic development strategies in all of the state of Florida for $0. No incentives needed to be offered to these companies. However, a lot of hand-holding and rolling out the red carpet, treating them as though we are the wealth manager and they are the wealthy client. We now have 40 billionaires in Palm Beach County and 71,000 millionaire households. At the same time that we are courting this wealth, we are also very cognizant that to the west of our great county on the western corridor, while in the good days we had a 3% unemployment rate, the western corridor, of which we are very, very ingrained in, Belgrade, South Bay, and Pahokee, have a 27% unemployment rate. So yes, what you see on the screen is very attractive, brings you clients, is big money, keeps our economy alive, especially amongst COVID, and is good quality growth. But we also know we have our work to do in other pockets of Palm Beach County that are not as fortunate. On the heels of this, and next slide, Chastity, big win. And hopefully this is not news to you, but this is just a simple illustration and example of the work of our Economic Development Board in partnership with the city and the county and our chambers and our universities. But I was once told, Kelly, you really are not going to make any headway into becoming Wall Street South until you land the big one. And a big one is any financial service firm that has about $1 billion under their belt. And everything that we had worked on before had less than $1 billion. Most of those 70 financial service firms had about 500 million, and we thought that was really big. However, about 2 months ago, we landed a very large one that is setting shop up in West Palm Beach. And so while we were told that $1 billion financial service firm would make waves, this is a $41 billion hedge fund manager that announced that they are moving not just an operation, not just an arm, not a handful of employees, but their corporate headquarters. And with that has come many executives that have also put a ton of money into buying private homes along the water in our county. So let me shift gears a little bit and talk a little about my private life and drill down to being a woman CEO, being a mom, and sort of my rise to landing the corporate office, landing the corner office. Next slide, Chastity. So I never really talk about, I do about 80 plus speeches a year, and I never really talk about my journey to landing the corner office, which I could tell you that it's a beautiful thing when your career and your passion come together all in one spot. And I really don't think that I would have been selected to be the CEO of this organization had I not really had the passion and the love for economic development and this competitive spirit that I have to win jobs for Palm Beach County. And I'll tell you a little bit where the passion comes from. I, like probably many people on this call today, I grew up in a middle-class family. I didn't come from money. I was born and raised in Palm Beach County. My mother was a school teacher and an owner of a very small private school. I grew up in the village of Palm Springs. I forgot to mention my father was a 35-year engineer at one of the largest employers in Palm Beach County, Pratt & Whitney. I went to all public schools in Palm Beach County, some of which are the roughest today, and none of us would want our kids there, but I survived and graduated from all public schools. I went off to the University of Florida. I came back in about 2 months prior to my graduation from the University of Florida. I interviewed at the Business Development Board, did not even want to go to the interview because I was so busy and home visiting my parents, really to go to Sunfest. But I went to the interview. I landed the job in 1988 at all of 21 years old. I did something that most 21-year-olds don't do today, especially today. I volunteered for every job in the office that nobody else wanted to do, which included taking out the trash, answering the phones, but I did have a vice president's position, which was one of several, of funding. I was in a sales position at 20 years old. I came in every morning at 7 a.m. I stayed late, and I didn't just stay late. I did something else that most 21-year-olds don't do today, and that is I would spend the night in the office. I would spend the night in the office because there was so much work to do. And 2 weeks into the job, I wanted to quit the Business Development Board, and I was ready to move on because the place was in such a shambles. But as I got more and more into the great work of economic development, and I started to see the impact that economic development has on the lives of people in our county and what it means to give someone a job, which is something that means more to most people, and gives them the ability to feed their children and have a lifestyle, I fell in love with the BDB. And so I continued to work my way up the ladder, serving in 8 different positions. My father would, as now say 22, 23 years old, would come to the office at night and bring me dinner. But again, I made sure that if I was going to stay in this industry, that I would become an expert, that I would research best practices in economic development. I would try to become the best. I never sat on the perimeter of a boardroom. I always inserted myself and sat at the table of a boardroom, even though I got a lot of stares. Always participated in conversations, was never the quiet one at the table, and really tried to come up with great ideas. If you're an executive, you've got those employees that sort of just endure being at the table and don't really contribute much to running your operations. And then you've got that wild spitfire in your organization who's always coming up with great ideas, is very energetic, wants to go above and beyond, and shows some interest in leading. And I was that person. And by then I was about 23 years old. Let me switch to the next slide, please. I don't really believe there is much balance between work and family. And as I talk about balance, please, nobody in this conversation today, please don't think that my way is the only way, and don't necessarily think that the way that I try to create some sort of normalcy in my family necessarily works for everybody, because I do have regrets. I do have some things that I would go and do differently, but I'll talk about sort of my journey up this career ladder. So you can see me in 1988 as I graduated from the University of Florida on the left. And then on the right, you can see me pregnant with my 3rd child. And then in the middle, I married my high school sweetheart. We started dating at 16 years old. My husband and I wanted 4 girls, and we had 3 boys. I practically delivered all 3 boys in the office, working up until the night before my delivery, at which point on my 3rd child, that little boy on the bottom right, when I delivered my 3rd child, my CEO, who I worked for 15 years, decided to deliver a laptop to St. Mary's Hospital. And I laugh at that today, but that sort of talks about how I balanced everything and how I was seen as a working mom, but I was fortunate to work for a man who gave me the opportunity to rise up the ladder, who encouraged me. And I think that's also, having a mentor is also a big part of becoming a woman CEO. And he supported me, he encouraged me, he gave me great flexibility to raise these three little guys that you see there. But I can tell you it was never pretty, and I had my moments. I took my standard 3 months of maternity leave, but I will tell you that the saving grace and a lot of who I am today was I was very fortunate that when raising these three little guys, my mom, who was a school teacher, came to me when they were just babies and said, listen, I'm going to sell my school, and I want nothing more than to help you in your home. I want nothing more than for you to be able to see your corporate success and your careers and your corporate dreams come through. So I'm going to retire, sell my business, and I'm going to come to your home every day. And for you women who have a great relationship with your mom, treasure that every day. I think strong women come from strong moms. And so my mom for 20 years came to my home. She helped me raise my kids. She worked 14-hour days. And I certainly credit her for a lot of who these little guys are today. Next slide. So here I am, those little babies went through their high school years, and I don't care what recognition, award, accomplishments, prizes that I've received in my career. There is nothing that makes me happier or more proud than being the mom of these three kids. And I strongly believe that there's really no harder job. I don't care what they give me at the business development board. I don't care what company I've ever landed. There's nothing harder than being a mom and raising three kids, getting up, getting them ready for school, living over the crock pot, traveling to New York to entertain a client, going to a board meeting the next morning at 8 a.m. My life became a world of crock pot cooking, grocery shopping on the weekends where my cart was filled with dozens of eggs and gallons of milk, going to the football practices, never missing a game, and trying to really create some normalcy. And I think that the best advice I could give for moms that are on today's virtual event is that the more clarity and certainty I created for these guys, and my ability to sit down with them on a Sunday night to outline what the week would look like and who's going to pick them up and drop them off, the better off they were. But I also believe that what goes up comes down. And unfortunately, my marriage did not survive, and we had to separate. A matter of fact, I think I've read several surveys where women who become CEOs are twice as likely to get a divorce after a promotion. And it is a very, very challenging role to play as a CEO on top of a mom and all of the other challenges of keeping your world together. But if that was not difficult enough, in 2014, my world was absolutely rocked with the news that I had to deliver. And I don't think there's a person on this call today that's ever had to deliver this news, but I lost the father of my three boys in 2014. And it was the most devastating thing I've ever had to do, is call them into a room and tell them that their dad, their hero, their coach had passed unexpectedly. To add salt to the wounds, I then 8 weeks later had to deliver the news that their grandma also passed unexpectedly. Here one day on a Friday, and 5 days later, she died the night before my big business development board black tie gala. And I only give you this information because I think that's what makes us strong women. I strongly believe that these trials and tribulations are what build us, that build us to be the strong people we are today and have those strong backbones. Children became, retreated. They had questions. They acted out. But I will tell you, if it's one thing I've learned, and that is where God puts a period in your life, never go back and put a question mark. And if it's one thing I tell these little guys all the time, is that every setback is a setup for a comeback, and we had to move our lives forward. So let's fast forward on to the next slide. So here we are today. Life moves on. I am certainly no Cinderella. I don't live a Facebook story. I don't have this perfect life by any stretch. I've had my share of trials and tribulations, but these little guys are now men. They've graduated from high school after they told me they are all going to quit. They've graduated from college after they told me they were going to quit. And I think that I'm at a completely different stage of my life right now, where I'm not waking up every day to go to a football field or to go to a soccer game. I now am hopefully planning for grandchildren one day, boys who are getting married, boys who are graduating, and so blessed to have a brand new, actually not so brand new, significant other in my life. I may not be a Cinderella, but I certainly have a prince in my life. And like I said, life moves on, and we just have to take it one day at a time. Moving on to the next slide, please. So, back to as a woman CEO, and through all of that, I mean, my gosh, I continue through all of that to be determined that if I'm going to work, whatever I'm going to do, I want to be the best at it. And that mediocrity is not acceptable in my life. Average is not acceptable with my employees. And they will tell you that while I may have a very big heart, I certainly am very hard to make sure that this organization performs the best work, that we perform the best product, and that we are seen as the best in the state in economic development. Because bringing jobs to Palm Beach County is one of the most important things, and I think it is a big factor in leading our economy through, especially these times. Had we not had a strong corporate headquarters, aviation, aerospace, financial service industry, manufacturing, logistics, and distribution cluster, I do not think that this county would be as strong as it is today, because we have to be sensitive to the fact that our small mom and pops are hurting, that our hotels are hurting, our restaurants and our retail are hurting. And it's because of what you see on the screen that Palm Beach County is not seeing near the devastation that we've seen in the past. Next slide. So big believer, be bold, be brave, be confident, research and be the expert. As a young woman growing up in this industry, at the time that I started, I reported to a 30-member all-male board, and I was all of 21 years old. But as I went through my 30-year journey, I realized one thing, that it's pretty hard to argue with someone who has their facts together, who knows more than most people in the room, who eventually becomes regarded as a leader in the industry. And the other thing that I've realized as a manager, especially with my staff, and I know that a lot of you manage staff, in my very early years of being a mom and in my very early years of being a CEO, I had a tunnel vision that it was my way, that it was one road that led to the finish line of success in the office and success at home. Today, I've learned that the road is not straight. The road is very winding. I have employees that follow a straight road, and I have employees that go this winding path. I have boys that follow a straight road, and I have boys that go through peaks, valleys, and mountains. And so as a CEO, I've also learned to create clear expectations of where we want our organization to be so that we are the best, but try not to micromanage as to how they get to the finish line unless there are problems. Next slide. I remain super bullish, and I wanted to leave you with this about Palm Beach County. I remain super bullish about this county, even though we are amongst COVID and our challenges. I've already noted, not only do we have political challenges, we have policies that are being handed down to us. I started my morning having a conversation with a county commissioner about whether or not we're going to go into another phase of closures, so brace yourself. But I will tell you that while all of that is going on, this organization is actually seeing an uptick in economic activity due to COVID. And what I mean by that is many companies are looking to flee the Northeast to come to Palm Beach County, Boca Raton, Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm Beach. because they are living in dense areas. They don't want to go up an elevator 50 floors. Their children are not in schools. Their restaurants aren't open. And now because of technology, they've realized they could do business anywhere. So we're working to bring, and hopefully you will see this soon, a 5,100 new jobs, 168,000 brand new manufacture of impact doors and windows going to the central western part of our county. Also working with a high-tech manufacturing operation out of France, bringing 40 new jobs, looking to build a 10,000 square foot. And of course, these are code names because we work on these projects confidentially. Next slide. We also are working on a financial service firm. I have a 1:30 call with them today. I am absolutely ecstatic because they are interested in now creating 600 new jobs for kids, I call them kids, 25 to 28 years old with a college degree in the financial services industry. Imagine coming out of college making $70,000 a year. This company is currently headquartered in Maryland, and they're looking to take 50,000 square feet of Class A office space. So let's cross our fingers that my conversation, which is the sixth one today, goes very well. It's between us and Fort Lauderdale. We're also working on a headquarters operation in Boca Raton that's looking to take 21,000 square feet of additional space. In addition, we're working on 3 medical device companies that are interested in Palm Beach County. The one that you see noted on the screen will create 100 new jobs. They want to build a 30,000 square foot facility, and they will spend 40 million jobs. Again, these are all projects that we hope to announce in the next 90 days, bringing jobs to Palm Beach County amongst the COVID. Next. We're working with a life science headquarters company that was created to address the quality of air due to COVID. So this is like an air filtration system that will go into hospitals, educational institutions. The average salary is $140,000, 21,000 square feet. They're looking at North County. And then Project Silver is a financial service firm, 200 new jobs, 50,000 square feet. Again, coming from the Northeast at an average salary of $80,000. Next slide, please. And last, working in this type of environment, even pre-COVID, it takes an extreme amount of discipline, focus, and organization. And I would say that especially as women today, we're challenged running our operations. Some of us may be in middle management, some of us may be in upper management, some of you may be raising babies, raising teenagers. God bless you, I'm glad I'm through that. Or you may be where I am today, and it's sort of the new Kelly Smallridge, the new phase of my life. COVID and an empty nester collided in my life all at the same time. And while I was all consumed with being a mom outside of my big duties as the CEO of the BDB, I realized in May that I had this huge void in my life. I had no babies at home, no games to go to, and oh, by the way, we were facing a pandemic. I started my days a little differently to create this balance and freshness and just a new perspective. Started my day with a task list already. I walked the beach this morning. I would have never done that before. I take the hardest task on my task list, I bump it up to the top, and then I also keep my eye on the prize for today by creating something fun that I look forward to doing at the end of the day and also at the end of the week. I also try to take a girlfriend to lunch every single week. Somebody that I have a great relationship with, but you know those girlfriends that you've not seen in a long time. Again, I never did that in the past, never took the time to connect because I was so busy being a mom and a CEO. But I love that new sort of group that I've created of other professional women that I also do some fun things with to create some level of sanity amongst COVID. I think that if we are not careful as working women, we could get ourselves into this rut where it seems so depressing to be in the times that we're in right now, looking at our political climate, looking at the pandemic, and then trying to do wear all of the hats that we wear. I instead have turned this into, I think, what is one of the happiest moments of my life. And that is looking at things through a different perspective, creating a better balance, being the best CEO, enjoying this time that I have as a mom at a different stage with my boys, while also playing the critical role of bringing great jobs to Palm Beach County so that we all make it through COVID and that we all have a good job for especially the next generation, and that I leave this Palm Beach County in a much better shape than the Palm Beach County that I grew up in when I graduated from the University of Florida. So I want to thank you, Chastity. I want to thank Sarah and Troy for your great partnership, for being such a great chamber, and for having me on this call just to share my professional and my personal story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You have already left Palm Beach County better than when where the Palm Beach County you grew up in. So I really appreciate you opening up and sharing some personal insight as well. I really appreciated the 1988 picture of you, the bangs and the earrings. If we could bring that back, it would be a lot of fun to pick that apart, but we won't do that. But that's funny. You came down here for Sunfest and ended up with a career. That's a great story. I do want to encourage people in the Q&A box, type in some questions if you have questions regarding, where we're at, what you see in the future with COVID or anything as it relates to the BDB or to Kelly personally. Type something if you'd like in the Q&A box. I will start with a question of my own. The recent approval or the yes vote for Amendment 2, which now will, by 2026, we'll have a 15-hour minimum wage. It bumps the mandatory minimum wage of $15 an hour. I know it starts September of next year for an extra $1 and keeps going up. I know that you recruit, headquarters that have high salaries, but within those headquarters, there's, the entry-level positions. Is that going to affect you in any way, knowing that our state now has this mandate on minimum wage?
Yes, Sarah, and thank you for the question. So, while I gave you a focus for what we primarily target our efforts towards, I am very cognizant, and this is why we do the sort of the big corporate recruitment, is because every one of those companies need services. They go to the restaurant, they go to the dry cleaner, they go to the retail operation, they take their family out, and all of those companies that are paying minimum wages, all of those companies that are the backbone of our small business economy are going to have a very hard time adjusting to this minimum wage requirement. I've had numerous conversations with our struggling businesses, our restaurant owners, our retail operations, and our hotel executives. And all of them have expressed grave concerns that not only have they been hit the hardest and have had to struggle with the financial challenges that COVID has created, now, oh, by the way, they have to pay $15 an hour. And so I think that ultimately the burden is going to fall on all of us as consumers. They will have no other choice but to pass that on to the people like us who are paying the bills, which is going to turn into a cost of living issue. And what made Palm Beach County in Florida a very affordable area to live in is now going to become more and more expensive on top of all of the taxes that we will be facing. So it's hitting our bottom line, Sarah. It's not good for small business. Many of those businesses are going to go under as a result of COVID, and this is only going to make it harder for them. It doesn't weigh well. It doesn't look good politically for our government to be telling our CEOs what they should and shouldn't pay. And the idea that somebody can come out of high school or not even have a high school degree and certainly have no skills and automatically be making 15 hours does not bode well. Right.
Well, thank you. All right, I'm going to go with some questions now. This is Rosemary Nixon. She moved to Boca Raton for new work opportunities based on stories she read in Florida Trend magazine. She learned about the quality of life and work in Boca and watched it all come to fruition. She chairs a nonprofit They advocate for experienced workers over 50 who have a hard time finding new work. This is important for employers also, since 50% of the population of our county is over 50. So do you have any insight into which employers are age-friendly employers to nominate for a planned awards event in 2021? So let's see, do you?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is not age friendly, but it would be hard for me to give an educated answer on age friendly, just because I think that people would be afraid to state what age they hire, what age they don't hire. So I would like to think that all of the companies that I've talked about, bottom line, care about who has the best skill set and is best qualified for the job. However, Rosemary, thank you for your question. And I think to answer your question, you will find a wide array of information at bdb.org, where we have listed many of the companies that have made the move into Palm Beach County, many of them who are looking for experienced and educated residents of Palm Beach County to fill those positions.
Wow, thank you. All right, so Jennifer Thomason, what are your opinions on fair trade companies? And is that a factor for BDB when talking to new potential companies moving to Palm Beach County?
So that does not come up. And on that note, let me talk about some of the biggest issues that do weigh into decisions. What do companies ask us about? So most of them are not international in scope. While I wish I had a lot more international, we don't. And I think that is in large part because Palm Beach County doesn't have an international airport of any size and doesn't have an international port. So what is important? Number one, the ease of doing business, the time it takes to get your business open, so permitting, the quality of our educational institutions, the quality of our public and private schools, and the regulatory environment here in this county. Are we pro-business or are we not pro-business? And you know, one of the things that we've watched as companies make the move from the Northeast to this area is their desire to be in a community that is pro-business. And we've seen a lot of them sort of escape the policies and practices of governments in New York, Boston, and Greenwich to come to what they think is a more business-friendly environment. And I think that's where we shine. Where we are challenged is in the cost of housing in Palm Beach County is going up through the roof. And if for any of you that are in the process of buying a home right now, you could put 3 offers in on a home and you probably will not get any of those. And that is my greatest concern, is that as these companies are moving mid-level managers, quite frankly, a lot of them are coming back saying they can't find the affordable housing. But fair trade practices usually don't come up on that list.
Very interesting. Yeah, we do hear a lot when we put our legislative agenda in place. A lot of the housing issues definitely brought up each year. How dependent are you on Enterprise Florida, QTI? I mean, your things change so dramatically, you know, with every session, new governor, new this, new that. How much of that dictates the BDB success?
So I would say that it has an impact, but we have shifted. And just as I mentioned in my strategy as a CEO, take that over into how we court companies to come to Palm Beach County and how we deal with incentives or not deal with incentives. If our strategy to recruit companies in the early days was solely dependent on using incentives to get them here, we would be in really big trouble today. But instead, knowing how government operates, we decided to put together what I would call a war chest of assets and factors that we could line up in front of a CEO looking at this area, of which incentives are only one particular piece of that war chest, but they don't make up the war chest. And so what I mean by that is creating an expedited permitting process, getting their children in schools, partnering with our institutions like FAU, Palm Beach State College, the wonderful Lynn University, and Nova Southeastern, and others, creating a more sustainable war chest as opposed to a one-off incentive that they would get upon entering into Palm Beach County or expanding, is the more lucrative way and effective way to land a company rather than paying them to come here, right?
Right.
It's kind of like if you teach your kids and give them a solid foundation rather than rewarding them with a financial bonus or allowance at the end of the week, you're going to end up with a more stable child than the child that you pay to do their chores. You're going to get a more solid company that believes in being here in Palm Beach County with no incentives, as opposed to paying somebody to relocate here.
Yep.
To put it in better perspective, out of 30 projects that we announce and facilitate each year, maybe only 2 get it. But here's the downside of not having incentives. Sometimes you need that incentive to be at the table for the big one.
Right.
So sometimes there's that really great project that every economic developer would salivate to win for this county, of which I never get a seat at that table. And that, Sarah, is where it hurts.
Right.
We are ruled out of the discussion because we don't have that to submit. And the BDB works a lot with consultants who eliminate Boca Raton, eliminate West Palm Beach, and eliminate Palm Beach Gardens and Jupiter because there's no incentive from the state or the governor to bring them to Florida. And that is a big mistake on behalf of our government.
Right. Yeah. And having been on one side when it was you had a governor would travel to other states and recruit businesses, and a lot of incentives were happening back then, to have to change. But, good job. Great job. You've put all those tools in a toolbox, and it's just one piece of it. I have one more question from the audience, and it's from Andrea Virgin. She says, "Hey, Kelly," or "Hi, Kelly. Thanks for sharing your story with us. As president of the newly greenlit Center for Arts and Innovation, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the project and what you could potentially do to help what that could potentially do to help your efforts to attract headquarters. Further, how important is cultural infrastructure and a great cultural scene to a HQ looking to relocate?"
Andrea, thank you for your question. And I will give you my perspective. When I started 32 years ago, and we did a survey among driving employers, top employers in our county, and we asked them, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of Palm Beach County? At the very top of the list was the lack of cultural institutions in our county. No real sort of arts, culture, entertainment, concerts, symphonies, operas, museums. I will tell you that if I did that same presentation today to a CEO coming here, I will use Dr. Harry Orff of Scripps and use his testimony. He said that coming from Boston, this is a few years ago when we brought Scripps here, that cultural arts and entertainment in Palm Beach County was equally as strong as the environment of which he came from in Boston. And so the answer is culture and arts is very big in a company's decision to move to this area. And while I'm so busy showing the company industrial space, office spaces, taxes, incentives, where they will go to school, introductions to university presidents, a piece that's equally important is taking them to see arts and cultural institutions. It's the fabric of our community. It's what sets Palm Beach County and Boca Raton apart. It's a big factor in our quality of life, and nobody ever moves to an area that doesn't have a great quality of life. So keep doing what you're doing. The more, the better. It makes our area richer. And honestly, technology and innovation thrive when there's a very strong culture and arts foundation. So we appreciate the growth and the support of our cultural and arts industry leaders, and we only want to see more of that.
Well, awesome. Great ending. There's other comments here that I believe you could see. If not, we're going to send them to you. Some nice comments from some of the people that were on the call thanking you. And I agree with every one of those comments. Really appreciate you taking the time today. I know you have a 1:30 important call, so we will not keep you, but we really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your story, educating us on what's happening in our county, making sure we know, things like that our county has the highest median average salary in the entire state. I didn't know that. And, you know, those are things that we all need to know so that we can also be cheerleaders for Palm Beach County and help you and the BDB. So thank you.
Sarah, thank you for all of your help. And I appreciate the opportunity to present today.
And we'll bring you back like 5 times next year as well. So
All right,
we're traveling this along with you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and keep an eye out for some correspondence. We have our auction coming up. It's a virtual auction. We are planning on having an in-person breakfast in December, so keep an eye out for our emails. But please have a very safe, very happy, and warm Thanksgiving with your family. So thank you all, and thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye-bye.